All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, welcome everyone. This Q&A question came in. Question came in earlier, and question comes up, and that is somebody who's going to convert, or I would say even, it's more for someone's going to convert, but even someone's Jewish, probably a good question also. Even though same thing's not necessarily going to apply. And that is, how does somebody, this question comes up quite a bit. How do you prepare for the rabbinical court? Right? How do you prepare, right? How do you prepare for rabbinical court questions? Right? That's first question. In order for a person to test their knowledge and find in a synagogue. Okay, so that's also a question that comes up. So one thing I don't do, and again, people could have claims against it, that's okay. And that is I don't test people. Right? I don't send out tests. I could. I don't. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. But the only way a person is going to know what to do is to do it. Right? That's the only way. So practically speaking, it's how do I know what they're going to ask me? How are they going to know what they're going to ask me about Shabbos? Right? What are they going to ask me about the laws of Shabbos? So I can tell you, name the 39 categories. You know the 39 categories? Name them. Right? And what are the applications of all these categories? Cooking. Right? Cooking's a good example. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. So how do you reheat food? Right? How do you put things on a hot plate? Or are you allowed to put things on a hot plate? You know how to do it. So if something's ice cold, right? You want to heat up kugel. Let's say Friday night or Shabbos day. We'll make it better. Shabbos day, it's cold. It's ice cold. How do I heat it up? Soup, can I reheat? Right? You got to make it practical. Is there any specific book for preparation before going to Beis Din? No. No specific book. Never going to come out with a book and say, these are all the questions you have to know about Judaism. You got to know everything. Kashrus, Shabbos, blessings. What specific book should there be there? Do you have like a catch-all book, 3,000 questions like you're taking a driving test? No. Right? Obviously, that's not going to happen. So you have to know. Well, there are books on blessings. There are books on Kashrus. Right? You got to go through them. Right? You got to go through them. You got to know them. So Shabbos, they could ask you, questions. How to use hot plate? They could ask you, you're out to rip toilet paper, not on the seam. What happens? You have a box of toilet paper, it didn't open. Bag of toilet paper, it didn't open. You don't have any tissues, what do you do? Right? I have a hammer on my table. Am I allowed to move it? Muksa. Am I allowed to move it if I need the space or not? Or let's say I don't want it to get damaged. Am I allowed to move it? You have to go through it. This is what you have to do. You go through day in and day out. Yeah? You make blessings. I eat, a person eats cheese on a cracker. What blessing do I make? One blessing, two blessings. Right? These things you got to know. They're not specific books on what a basis is going to ask you. Not specific books. There are books on blessings, books on Kashrus, books on Shabbos. That's what you got to do. Right? You got to make it real. You got to review. You got to read the books. You got to go through them over and over again. So you know like the back of your hand. Blessings you have to know like the back of your hand. So how are you going to know? I can send out questions. Turn people into a pretzel. You won't want to convert after I do that. No one will want to do that. I guarantee. I'm not going to send out cream puff questions. What's the blessing over strawberry? It's a cream puff question. Yeah. Is it a tree? Is it a bush? Something you got to know. Papaya. Right? What about papaya? Papaya is a botanical anomaly. Yeah. These are things you got to know. Right? I can send out a questionnaire of 20 questions. You wouldn't answer any of them. I can make it, I can make it very, I can make it very easy also. Right? Basic things you have to know. They're not trying to trick you. Right? In general, they want to see. Right? I'll give you an example. Someone asked, I was in a basement with somebody. They asked, these people have been They're already converted. They have to go through a stringent conversion. The Beit Din asks the following question, right? We'll throw this out there. Is there any difference between a festival and Shabbos? Anything at all different between a festival and Shabbos? So I'll tell you the answer. There are two differences. Right? Obviously, things you can't do on Shabbos also on a festival should be forbidden. There are two exceptions. I mean, other things also, but there are two main exceptions. What's one exception? I'm allowed to carry without an error. What I need, not something forbidden. I'm allowed to carry. That's one difference. The other difference is if I already had a what do you call it? A flame that's already on. My hot plate's already on. It gets very hot, right? I'll be allowed to cook on it. I can take a raw piece of meat and cook it. Yeah, I can saute onions. I can do other things. I can cook it. Those are the two main differences. Yeah, see, again, the more you learn, the more you know. But you're not going to know it if you don't review. Right? So the good books to get on the laws of Shabbos, yes. Good books to get on the laws of kashrus, the laws of blessings, yes. So how are you going to know it? You got to live it. You got to practice it. And you make mistakes along the way. That's okay. 100%, that's okay. You make them now. You don't make them later. But understand when you made the mistake, why did you make the mistake? Yeah. So is there a cheat sheet? No. There's no cheat sheet. These are things you got to know. Right? What blessings to make in which situations? What happened? Now, throw out another question. What happens if you made the wrong blessing? According to everybody, you made the wrong blessing. Do I have to go back and make a new blessing or not? Depends. What does it depend on? It depends on whether my statement is true. If my statement is true, even though I made the wrong blessing, then I don't make a new blessing. If my statement is not true, then I have to make a new blessing. Yeah. So you got to review. People don't like to review. People just like to learn new things. Okay. But if you don't review, what's going to happen? You'll forget, you make mistakes. So, no cheat sheets. This is what you got to do. That was the first part of the question. Right? First part of the question is, I'll just bring it up here. How can you practice? The way you practice is by living it. By living what the Torah says. Making blessings, keeping Shabbos. So if you're going to keep it, you're going to do it, you make mistakes. Right? You have to know when you made a mistake. So when you make a mistake, you should make the mistake again. And if you made the mistake a second time or a third time, you got to know. Right? You don't know what they're going to throw out at you. They could ask you what are some of the 13 principles. They could ask you that. I mean, they're not going to ask you probably details about them, but they could definitely ask you about them. So, you really have to know. You really have to know everything to the best of your ability. They want to see if you have working knowledge. You have working knowledge of the laws of Shabbos. They're not going to ask you so many questions. They want to see. Do you know how to use hot plate? Do you know what muktzah is? Am I allowed to touch anything I want? Am I allowed to open up a bag of potato chips if it's closed? Is there any problem if I open it up? Again, these are practical things that happen every week. Right? Blessings come up every day. The only way you're gonna know it is if you go through it and you review. Yeah, someone here mentions you can only cook on a festival on that day. Yeah, you cannot cook from one festival to the next. It's also a difference. But you're not allowed to cook from festival to every day. In other words, if you cook, you're cooking more in order to eat it the next day. Next day is not, even if it's the festival, it doesn't matter. You're not allowed to do that. That's true. You're not allowed to do it for the next day. Right? Let's say you made a lot of extra food. The whole purpose is to eat it during the week after the festival. That you're not allowed to do. If you had food left over, it's one thing, but you're not allowed to do that. But the main difference is you're allowed to cook. That's what they're looking for. That's the main difference. Now, okay, you had another point. Very good. But that is the main difference. So then someone asks, before we get to the second question, how does the Beis Din process work? So you go to Beis Din. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to take your information, right? They'll take your information. You have to fill an application. And there are going to be a lot of questions on the application. Right? Family status. Question will be references. Question will be why you want to convert. To this, I would say, you don't have to, you have to be able to give a reason why you want to convert. Yeah, because if a person says, "Wow, this feels right for me," right? I'll give you some cheat answers there. The person's going to say, "Well, this feels right for me, and this is what I want." They can say, "You could be totally fulfilled being a Noahide." That's what they'll tell you. They're not trying to convince you. They want to draw out of you why you want to convert, right? They don't want to hear, "I love the Jewish people and I want to be part of them." And they want something concrete, right? So you got to come up with something, right? You got to think. You got to verbalize it. That's the word. Verbalize it. Why you want to join the tribe? Now they'll try and convince you. You don't have to. They'll tell you you can live a very fulfilled life. I could keep you busy for the next 250 years. Staying as a non-Jew, staying as a Noahide. Right? So the person's going to have to say why they want to convert. Now, some people say, "Well, I have Jewish blood and I'm going back to my roots and other things." Yeah, but let's say person doesn't have any Jewish blood. So you got to be able to articulate in some way why you want to convert. So the first time they'll probably just take a lot of information, right? They may give you they'll give you a syllabus probably, a whole bunch of books to read, and they'll tell you to be in touch. And then when you finish the books, you go through the material, 2-3 months later, whatever it may be, they'll call you in for another appointment or maybe longer, whatever it is. And again, then, once they do that, they'll see if you have any questions on the topics. They'll ask you questions on the topics, right? Then, and, the Beis Din's going to have to ascertain when they think this person's ready to convert. Now, what's the average time? Average time is probably a couple of years. That's probably the average time, right? It takes. They want to see, a Beis Din wants to see that you live in a Jewish community for a year. Even if a person has knowledge, they can have a lot of knowledge, but they don't live in a community. They don't live in a community. Even if they have a lot of knowledge, it doesn't really matter. They want to see you live amongst Jews. They want you to see it in practical terms. Right? The example we always give is, imagine a person read, it was before YouTube, right? Person read a bunch of books about learning how to swim. So that's beautiful. Yeah? So he read these books. Then all of a sudden, practically speaking, someone throws you in the deep end of a pool. What's going to happen? You'll drown. Why are you going to drown? Because you never saw it in action. Right? You never saw it in action. So, therefore, now they got videos. Right? So people can watch videos, how to wash your hands in the morning. Different things, how to pronounce, how to read Hebrew, how to pronounce blessings. Okay? Right? It's a lot easier. Again, seeing how you use a hot plate on Shabbos, that you're going to see practically. Right? That you're going to see with your own eyes. What's taken off, what's put on, how you do it before, after. Right? That you have to see. Cleaning for Passover, different things you have to see. Right? You have to see what's done. Knowing what to do and doing it are different things. You might get it right. Not going to say not. You might get certain things right without seeing it. But the one thing someone told me recently, or not so recently, that, even learning and getting a lot of knowledge, person learned for, a couple of years or whatever, at a certain level of knowledge, but they didn't live in a Jewish community. They didn't see it in action. So there were a lot of practical things they didn't know how to do. Right? So that is why living amongst Jews is such a crucial thing, even though people say, come on, doesn't say in the Talmud, doesn't say in the Torah, doesn't say anywhere, I have to live amongst Jews. How are you going to know How are you going to know how to be a Jew if you don't see it? You don't see what people do. Yeah, you can take classes, you can this, but you have to see it in practical terms. You have to see it in, in practical terms. So there can be, there can be gaps in knowledge also. I've come across a lot of people, had certain level of knowledge, but there were plenty of gaps. Plenty of gaps. There are certain things you can understand, right? You can read about it, but what about middle cases? What about cases you're not sure of? Can we be doima milsa la milsa? Can I say that this is similar to that? Maybe yes, maybe no, right? Maybe it is similar, and this is the case. Maybe that's similar. Okay, maybe, right? Maybe it is, right? That's why you got to learn. That's why the most important thing here is you have to gain your own knowledge. You have to learn on your own, no question. At the same time, you got to learn by someone else. You got to have a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, book knowledge is good. You need book knowledge. You need to learn a lot of things on your own also. Very true. Very, very true. But without a mentor, someone taking you through, you'll get some of it. I'm sure, some of the knowledge is going to stick and you get it right. Without, having someone take you through it, not the same. Right? It's definitely not the same. So the base then will have to ascertain. They're going to have to ascertain whether the person ready to convert or not. Right? Do they have the knowledge? Right? So, how are they going to determine that? Right? Good question. How are they going to determine that? First, they're going to determine how long they've been learning. Right? They'll determine, if they've been in a community, how long they've been in a Jewish community. There are people that could have been in community for a long time, but their knowledge is weak. Right? Their knowledge is weak. And someone tell me, someone's by me for, I don't know, a couple of years, 2-3 years, moved to a Jewish community, would have been for COVID, probably would have converted 6 months later, but because of COVID, everything got shut down. So someone else, also like was going to these classes, going to these other classes, and they haven't advanced. Why did they advance? Well, this person told me basically they're lazy. They wanted to convert, they could. Yeah. But they're just lazy. They don't come to classes, they don't review, so they won't get anywhere. We mentioned many times, Chofetz Chaim in the third part of the Mishnah Berurah, the beginning, the introduction. Chofetz Chaim says in the laws of Shabbos, if you don't review, you transgress. He's not cursing anyone. He's telling you there are tons of laws to learn. If you don't review, you transgress. Very simple. Very, very simple. Knowledge is power. The more you review, the better you know it. The more you won't make mistakes. Right? So, the rabbinical court want to see persons in a community at least for a year, right? Before they even think about converting them. But again, even if let's say they're in a community for a number of years, but they see that, basic knowledge they're missing, right? Basic knowledge they don't have. So, it doesn't matter how long they've been in a community, it depends on their knowledge. Depends on their consistency also, right? If it's a guy, does he go to synagogue 3 times a day? They want to ascertain. They want to ascertain, is this person really committed? Right? So someone asked before, I didn't deal with it, it's a good question. And that is, if you answer something incorrectly. So it depends what it is. Depends what a person answers incorrectly. Yeah. If it's something basic, I would say if it's something basic, the basin, is probably going to say, okay, you need to learn this better. You need to learn, that better. Or I had someone tell me, they were probably ready to convert based on thought they read Hebrew too slow. So they wanted to work on that. So they're the ones basically calling, calling the shots, but they also understand there's so much knowledge to be known. They're not expecting you to know everything. Right? They're not expecting you to know everything. But they're expecting a certain level. They're expecting a person to have a certain level of knowledge. Now, question on that is, does that depend on the base? It could be. Some rabbinical courts are more thorough. Some are less thorough. Some will let people convert even if they don't have a certain level of knowledge. Some people, some rabbinical courts, want to make sure they have thorough knowledge. And it's not going to shouldn't take more than 2 years, right? But they want to have a more extensive knowledge. So it really depends. It really depends on the rabbinical court itself. Somebody mentioned they're not looking for robotic converts. They want to know. Let's make clear. They want to know you have certain information, you know certain information. Is that robotic? The answers are the same. Those answers don't change. I got tuna fish on a cracker. What blessing do I make? 1 blessing, 2 blessings. What blessing do I make? Is that a robotic answer? That's a robotic answer. Right? Right? Or let's say, well, that's more, why are you eating it? You eating it for the sake of the tuna fish? You're eating it for the sake of the cracker? You're eating it for the sake of both? Right? So that could depend. Blessing on the strawberry. No one disagrees. That's a robotic answer, isn't it? Blessing over an apple. Bray Bray 8. Anyone disagree? Anyone out there disagree? There's no Bray Bray 8 on an apple. No. If I made a Bray Bray Adama, okay, different issue. So there are a lot of things, difference of opinion. Okay. Could be a difference of opinion among rabbinic authorities. There are plenty of things that are black and white. Don't make that mistake. Plenty of things that are black and white. Can I eat this or I can't eat it? Yes or no? It's not anything in between. No difference of opinion, black and white. Many things, black and white. There are things, difference of opinion, okay. Yeah. But, there are a lot of questions that the answer will be exactly the same. And everyone will have to give the same answer. So is that robotic? Seems to be robotic, isn't it? Everyone's going to give the same answer, right? You give a test of 100 questions, and 85 of the questions are straight yes or no. Either it does work or doesn't work, or I can eat it or I can't eat it. And the other 15 could be difference of opinion. Depends on this, depends on that, right? There are a lot of different factors involved in questions. It's also true, right? That is also true. Right. So they're going to see, also a person can have an extensive level of knowledge, but they get nervous. Right. They get nervous. So then they forget. And they get flustered. They understand that also. But they want to see, do you have basic knowledge or not? Do you know what the blessing over strawberries? They're not going to ask you why. They're not going to ask you why. They want to know, do you know the answer? Yes or no? Is it this or is it that? Yeah, they can also tell from body language. Also true. Yeah, they want to see answers. They want to see answers. Listen, if a person feels comfortable or a person gets nervous, they understand that. They definitely understand that. They'll take that into account. They have to ascertain whether the person has the knowledge or not. If they make a number of mistakes just because they're nervous, that doesn't mean they're going to throw them out. If they're going to work on this thing, they understand that. Yeah. They just want to see. They want to see if you have the knowledge or not. Right? But again, there are plenty of answers out there. Plenty of answers out there. It's black and white. It's black and white. It's not subjective. So, there are some things, okay, some people eat it this way, some people eat it that way. What's the most important thing? Different thing. Okay. There are certain aspects of that. And some things may be a difference of opinion. Yeah. There are plenty of things, though. Don't make this mistake. There are plenty of things that yes or no. No, it depends. No. Plenty of things that are black and white. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Blessing. You eat enough of it. You say grace after meals. I'm going to disagree with that. Unless the bread's made out of, the bread's made out of rice. Or the bread's made out of, let's say, cornmeal or something like that. Bread's made out of wheat. Simple question. Bread's made out of wheat. What's the blessing? You wash. Anyone disagree? No. Question is the after blessing. Did I eat enough? That's the question. Okay. But, you eat a sandwich relatively quickly, you're not going to have a problem. Right? That's not going to be an issue. So there are plenty of things, black and white. Plenty of things. Black and white. So they're going to see rabbis aren't stupid. They're going to see. They're going to see what the person knows, what they don't. And if they make mistakes, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. They understand a person's not going to know everything. But they want to see a certain level of knowledge. Now, what level is that? That's a good question. Because not all rabbinical courts have the same criteria, have the same standards, even by Orthodox. Some want you to know a lot more. Some, want to make sure you have basic knowledge. Whatever it is. Doesn't mean that the process is going to be shorter. It's just that what they expect. You got to remember, a rabbinical court signing their name on this piece of paper saying that they're qualified to be Jewish. Yeah. Now, what happens if they start sitting, they make mistakes? It's on the beis din. It's on the rabbinical court. They're taking great responsibility. So if they're taking great responsibility, they don't want any, Tom, Dick, and Harry just converting. They don't have any knowledge. It's on their shoulders. They got responsibility, no question. Right? So could they take their sweet time in converting someone so they feel that the person's ready? Sure. Is it going to take 10 years? No. It's going to take 5 years? No. Shouldn't. 2 years is the average. But it's like anything else. You want it bad enough, you got to review. You got to show you have the knowledge. Right? There's a lot of information. A lot of information. Someone, a former student of mine said, they had folders, they had binders, they reviewed and reviewed. That's how you get to know it. That's the only way. That's the only way. Well, someone could say, well, you should get practice tests. Yeah, I should. Maybe I should. I don't. So what's someone going to do? If that's not the case, they're taking my classes. You have to do it on your own. That's something you got to do on your own. Right? And see. I have this in front of me, that in front of me, that in front of me. What do I eat first? Is there a priority here? Right? Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Right? There's things you got to know. You wouldn't call concrete laws robotic. Why not? The same answer. You're going to hear the same answer 100 times. Right? What's the blessing over bread? Anyone going to say a different answer? I mean, if they give the wrong answer, they give the wrong answer. Right? But if everyone gives the right answer, that's not a robotic answer. Of course, it's a robotic answer. That's what it is. Is this or that? That's not robotic? I don't know. Maybe my definition of robotic is different. Maybe. Right? It's concrete. That's my point. It's concrete. It's not going to differ according to anybody. Yeah? You're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Right? What about the peanut butter and jelly? I lick it off. So what? Anyone going to disagree? Don't make a blessing on it? No. You make the blessing on the bread. Whatever's inside it doesn't matter. Even if you eat it by itself, doesn't matter. If you ate it first, okay, that's a different issue. If you ate it as part of the sandwich, nothing to talk about. Nobody disagrees. That's concrete. That's concrete. Any of these things. Person chews gum. You got to make a blessing? Yes. You make an after blessing? Everyone agrees you don't make an after blessing. Everybody agrees. It's concrete. Many things like that. There are other things not like that. Difference of opinion. Some say like this, some say like that. But again, there's normative halachas, normative law. Even if there's difference of opinion, how do we hold? Maybe Sephardic people hold like this. Maybe Ashkenazi people hold like that. So that's more subjective. Okay. I agree. Other things are much more concrete. Right? Much more concrete. Sorry, my blessing would throw me off. Yeah, because the question is it a bush? Is it considered a bush? Is it considered a tree? Right? But again, in either case, I would tell you, if they would ask you what's the blessing on strawberry, right? I would tell you to say this, right? But I would say, what's the difference? It's so infested you can't check for it. So why eat it? They don't want to hear that. That's not the answer they want to hear. They want to hear it's great bread double. That's what they want to hear. Right? But practically speaking, you should eat it. Very hard to clean. Right? Very hard to clean, bug prone. Right? Known to be totally infested. As long as you won't eat it without checking it. Okay. That's also true. That's also true. They're not asking that. asking what's the blessing in general. They're not asking, would you eat it? Because it's problematic to check. They're not asking that question. The person can bring it up, but they're not asking that, right? They're asking a straightforward question. What's the blessing? There's only two possibilities. There's only two possibilities. It's either a eighth or a double. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you why. That's not, what happens if the person said shackle? Oh, you said a shackle, you still fulfill your obligation. You definitely fulfill your obligation. Not the best way to do it, but okay. But there are really two answers. It's one or two answers. That's pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Bugs are not going to ask you about it. Yeah. So here it says, okay, what's the definition of robotic? It means something to contain all the right answers, but they really apply it to their lives. But are they really applying it? That's a different issue. That's a different issue. Being robotic, my definition was as a concrete. Right? So you might be right. Being robotic means by just doing things by rote. Doing things by rote, spoken about many times, is akin to spiritual death. That's true. That's a big problem. Right? Because then you're just doing things, you're doing it. It's just, you're doing it like a robot, and that's not what God wants. Right? So, okay, how do they apply it to their lives? They make blessings. They keep kosher. Yeah. But what about other things? What about ethics and different things? Okay, it depends. Depends on the person. How do you think fake converts get through the rabbinics? How do they get through it? Because what they probably do is they probably memorize a whole, a lot of stuff. And they put on a good show. Can they pull the wool over the eyes of the rabbis? Yeah, it's happened. It's definitely happened. That they did it. There's a story of somebody in Brooklyn that went off. They say it was a fake convert, but seemingly he wasn't. He just didn't want to do it anymore. Very serious. Learned a lot. Nobody doubted the sincerity. But then the person went off the rails. Yeah. It's like anybody who's Jewish who doesn't keep Judaism. Right? In other words, if they're religious, they go off the rails. What they call going off the derech. Okay. Doesn't mean it was a fake convert. How do they get through the system? They do a very good job. They do a very good job impersonating Orthodox Jews. And all the motions and the blessings and this. Yeah, they work very hard to do it, to perfect it. So therefore, they could pull the wool over someone's eyes. Possible. Right? It's definitely possible. Right? I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's impossible. Per se, but they play the game very well. Very, very well. So they're able to get through the system. They don't get caught. But eventually you get caught. Right? All good things come to an end. Yeah. Eventually someone slips up and you find out. Right? You find out. But you're going to say, but they did such a great job up until that point, right? 100%. They could do it. Right? Is it common? No. I wouldn't say it's common. I wouldn't say it's very common. It happens. Can happen. Right? But it's I would say it's not very common. But in the Orthodox community, right, where you spend most of the time with a few people observing, that doesn't. Okay, that helps. That's going to help. Being around Orthodox Jews, right? That's not the same thing as living in a community. And again, what it's going to depend on a lot once the person moves into a community is knowledge. That's what it's going to depend on. And it's also going to depend on what type of Orthodox Jews you hang out with and how really observant they are. If they know their stuff and whatever, and a person gleans from them and you learn from them, very good. Does that mean a person's ready to convert? Not necessarily. Doesn't necessarily mean that. Right? Being in a community is that, that is the most important thing. I'm not saying you don't have to have the knowledge, you have to have the knowledge. But living in a community, shows commitment. Yeah, a person can't move, this, that, okay. They can have all the knowledge, it's not going to convert them. They're not, in most cases, they won't convert them. Yeah, even if a person has unbelievable knowledge, right? It doesn't matter. I had someone tell me recently, very interesting story. Person considered himself a Baal Tshuva, right? Came back to Judaism. You know, you know, I think went to yeshiva, learned this, that. His mother's not Jewish. Mother had a conservative conversion. Yeah. So the person contacted me and asked me what he should do. I said, you got to go to a base. You got to go to a rabbinical court. I don't, I didn't determine the person's knowledge. This person saying he's learned a lot. He knows everything. He knows what he needs to do, knows how to pray, knows all the laws, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's say he's right. Right? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he's right. He's a guy. According to everybody. Right? According to us, so let's say better. According to us, he's a non-Jew. Okay. Should we start putting on tefillin? Yes. Should we break Shabbos? Yes. So this person was adamant. So I'm not doing it. I told him that's what you got to do. Your mother's not Jewish, so no matter how religious you think you are, right? See, this is another problem. Doesn't matter. You have all the knowledge. Let's say you have all the knowledge. You know how to pray. You know how to make blessings. You know what you need to do, how to keep Shabbos and all that. Very good. Are you Jewish or not? Right? Bottom line. Bottom line. Are you Jewish or not? No. How can you put on tefillin? You're not Jewish. The mother's not Jewish. So you're fooling. Doesn't matter. You can have 10 times greater knowledge than me in 10 lifetimes. Okay? Yeah. Your mother's not Jewish, according to us. Should have a kosher conversion. Right now. So I told the person, go, that second thing I said, that's basically the first thing I said. And I told them they have to go to Beis Din. So they came back and they said, I'm not giving up this, I'm not giving up that, I'm not giving up the other thing. I already know it, blah, blah, blah. So I said, go to Beis Din. They asked me, how long is it going to take? I have no idea. If you show the knowledge, you say what happened, you live amongst Jews, whatever. Shouldn't take more than a few months for them to convert. Probably less. Because you're already living this life for years. So it's probably a very short process. Okay. But you see, you can't turn this into a pretzel, as I would always say. If your mother's not Jewish, it doesn't matter what. You could be the second coming of Moses himself. Who cares? Or say, boss, who cares? Well, that cares. Well, what difference does it make? What level of knowledge you have? You're not Jewish. If you're not Jewish, you're not putting on tefillin. If you're not Jewish, you got to break Shabbos. I don't care. You got world-class knowledge of the laws of Shabbos and this and that. You're not a Jew. That's it. Oh, he don't like that. Well, that's the truth. So I said, go to a Beis Din, see what the Beis Din says. It's not going to be a long process. Shouldn't be a long. If what the person is telling is true, should be a long process. Remember one thing: you can't just do what you want. You cannot just do what you want. So if this guy's mother's not Jewish, why is he not putting on tefillin? You can't put on tefillin. I've been doing it every day for years. So what? It's not a Jew. Yeah. So it should be a short process. If the person has a knowledge, been living amongst Jews, it should be a short process. That's it. Yeah. See where it goes. Let me see other questions here. So many are teaching incorrectly, watering it down. Yeah. So you got to listen to people that tell the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of fraud out there. A lot of fraud out there. It happens. Someone asked me the other day, like, you the real deal? I'm like, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Not here to mess people up. Definitely not. Right? Are there unscrupulous people out there misleading people? Yes. It's true. Shouldn't be, but there are. Right? Definitely are, no question. Yeah, the other part of this question, which pretty much dealt with the first part, somebody asks, all right, before we get the second question, it's also a good question. and that is advise the appropriate amounts pay the based in rabbis. Some people, some places have a set fee, right? Not going to be a huge fee, right? But some have a set fee, and a lot of times the person's going to go in front of a rabbinical court. You're not going to be going like every week. So you don't have to worry about that. It's like, I should pay them for their time or whatever. You're probably going once every few months at least. At least. Probably, going once every 2 months, 3 months, whatever. So what's appropriate? I can't say. I definitely can't say. If you're taking classes by them, you should pay them. And their time's worth something. How much a person charges, okay. It's a one person many years ago, said that, what I do is exorbitant and it's, what do you call it? It's extortion, for charges. I say, listen, you want to, a person can take classes, they don't have money. I'm not gonna not charge them. Sorry, I'm not gonna charge them. Yeah. The person's time's worth something, okay. So somebody said, the person said, like, this is disgrace and this and that. Like, what would your rabbi say? Right? That's what they said to me. What would your rabbi say? I said, you want to really know what he would say? He would say you don't charge enough. You should charge more. That's what he would say. Like, wow, it's so cheap. Right? And they just charge more. Extortion? Yeah, if I charge $1,000 a month, that might be extortion. I mean, it's worth the price. I think it's definitely worth the price. A person getting valuable information. Imagine if I had a PhD in physics or something else. Person wanted to learn. It's going to cost a mint, right? Then we're going to cost a mint. If someone says, "Oh, it's extortion," whatever, yeah, I'm getting so rich from this. You understand? $10 to $15 an hour. Like, come on, what does a normal tutor take? $20 an hour, $5 an hour, probably more, 30, 35 an hour. Yeah, someone's got world-class knowledge in this topic. It's worth a lot. It's worth a ton. $10 to $15 an hour. You're gonna call that extortion? Do me a favor. Would you haggle with a guy fixing your washing machines? I'm not gonna pay that amount. Okay, if it's exorbitant, I get it. This is what I charge. This is the fee. That's it. Unless you're Jewish, you're going to haggle with them. You're not going to haggle with them. Yeah, people have an issue with it, right? And the question comes up. Seen it many a times. Moses taught in the desert for free. How can you charge? Because God made him rich. Through the tablets, he made him rich. Okay. I had someone tell me, get a real job. I can set you up in other things. Why are you doing this? Giving off a non-Jews. I'm like, what do you mean? I love non-Jews. And maybe I have issues with, some non-Jews in my family. Okay, but it's extortion? You got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. $10 an hour, $15 an hour, that's extortion? That's crazy. Now, someone can't pay, I'm not going to charge them. Not going to charge them. We'll have to do it for free. No issue to do it for free. It helps me. It certainly helps me, but anyway, so that's what I would say to that. Second part of the question, which I do want to deal with because it's an important thing here. What's the best way to find and move to the Jewish community? Yeah, and if they have two different synagogues. So one thing you got to do is you have to, what you have to do is you got to see where you're holding. You got to see what type of community that a person fits in. Right? So I have a video on that on my YouTube channel. You'll find in Jewish community on Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Give a plug for that. And there I went through what's the difference between, you got modern Orthodox, you got ultra Orthodox, including Chabad, right? Hasidim, Lithuanian type Jews, so to speak, yeshivish. So what's the difference in the way people dress? What's the difference between people's outlook, about Judaism, about the world, right? Really, really about the world. So if you're modern Orthodox, we'll just throw this out there, not going to throw them 100% under the bus, maybe 60%. right? Their world outlook for many of them is Torah is very important, Shabbos is very important, Kashrus is very important, but it's also important to have a job and have a secular education. Now, we, the other Orthodox, think, okay, why do I need a secular education? Get a job. Now it depends what you're doing. Do I have to have a degree? Some things you need a degree, right? Some things you definitely need a degree for. A lot of things you don't. A lot of things you don't. So if you don't need a degree, it's a waste of time. But they will say it's important to be well educated. Come on, kids been learning for so many years. It's got to go to college, get a real education. Yeah, might have a grueling schedule. One morning, 2 afternoons a week. Like, come on. Why does the person need a degree? You don't necessarily need a degree to make money. It's one of the biggest lies up there, probably top 10. I would put it in the top 10, but I'm not going to go through that now. I've spoken about it. Right? So the idea is, where do I fit in philosophically? So I became religious through the modern Orthodox religious Zionist movement, as most people know, and I left it. And there's good reason I left it, because I don't think it works. I think it's much more watered down. There are some strong communities out there. Okay, but I will say, my biggest fear was that if I stayed there, I wouldn't have amounted to anything in Torah. That was my biggest fear. And you see, in the outer Orthodox community, right, I would say outside of the Hasidic community, what's the most important thing? Torah knowledge, right? It's Torah knowledge. So, in my type of community, a lot of people are going to try and sit and learn, married men, as long as they can, because they have to get a job. Hasidic community, maybe after marriage, maybe they'll sit and learn full-time, let's say for a couple of years, they'll go out to work, right? And the modern Orthodox community, maybe a similar thing. Maybe a similar thing, but they have a different value. Their value is a secular world. Why can't I go to a ball game? Why can't I go to movies if there's, not such a problem of, vulgarity and immorality and all that? Or why can't I watch TV? Different things. So their mentality is very different. And it's a reason, and I'm going to, they'll hammer me for saying this, but there's a reason why they're not producing Torah giants. There's good reason. Right, a number of years ago here in Israel, they appointed, forget how many, I forget the number, how many, 20, I don't know, 20 something, 25, 26 rabbinic court judges. I think 15 out of 26 or 28, I forget exactly the number, came from the outer Orthodox community. So, discrimination, this, that. No, that's 60%, 58%, 59%. But why are they producing more rabbinic court judges? Because the emphasis is on Torah knowledge. One Orthodox community, that's not the emphasis. You can be learning for rabbinic ordination at the same time, going for a degree and getting a law degree or whatever. It's not a contradiction. The most important thing to them is not learning. It's not. In some communities, stronger communities, there's more emphasis. Okay. In a lot of communities, no. Okay, get certain knowledge and you go to work. Maybe you go to a class at night, you go learn, whatever. Most important thing is to make money. But I'm saying you have to go into this, and your mentality is, I want to be poor. That's not the mentality. That's not our goal. No. It is true. If the husband's learning full time, you make less money. True. The woman's going to have to work and whatever. True. At some point, they're going to have to go out to work. Yes. It's what it says in the Ksuv, in the marriage document. You got to support your wife. True. Very, very true. Right? But how is someone judged in the Orthodox community? Right? The outer Orthodox community, knowledge. Now, some people feel they can't learn or whatever. They go out to work, they feel like second-class citizens. Okay? So even if they're working, they got to support people that are learning. It's different. Person goes out to work, very, very different. Very different environment, different things they see and they go through, whatever. Very, very different. So it's also different the way they dress. But again, a person has to see where they fit in. Some people say, I like the modern Orthodox community. I fit in better there. the way they dress, what they speak about, different things. Very good. I left it for a reason. Read my ebook. You know, what's my ebook? Send me an email. RabbiChaimKoffman@gmail.com. RabbiChaimKoffman@gmail.com. So I'll send it. My life story. Yeah. Why I left it. Why I left it. I'll give one example. Right? I'm not going to bash them 100%. I'll give one example. I had plenty of money. I could sit and learn for as long as I wanted. And a certain one Orthodox rabbi told me, you gotta stop learning to the army. In between. So I said, I get the opportunity to finish the entire Talmud. I don't have any money issues. Now, we say there's nothing more important than learning Torah. This person said, you got to do the army. Right now, it's a very hot topic, which I don't really want to go into now. But so I said, I have an opportunity to sit and learn. I'm disturbed. No money problems. You want to tell me doing the army is more important than that? You got to have big shoulders. That's heresy. Nothing more important than learning Torah. That's heresy. Yeah. Forget about, okay, I should do the army, whatever. It's a different issue. Yeah. Nothing more important than learning Torah. Don't let anyone tell you that. Nothing more important than learning Torah. So this heretic come and say, well, as long as you do the army. So let me give you a marshal, give you a parable here. Somebody, Rabbi Akiva, the famous story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, his wife tells him to go learn. He comes back after 12 years. Gets to the doorstep, all the students, gets to the doorstep, he overhears his wife say to her friend, if my husband was here, I'd tell him to go back and learn another 12 years. So what did Rabbi Akiva do? The Gemara says, he turned around. He turned around and went back to learn. Everyone asked the question, what's he doing? Why didn't he go in? Say hello to his wife, say hello to his kids. Yeah. So what's the answer? Because if he would have taken a break, even a short break, right? 12 years plus 12 years doesn't equal 24. 24 straight years is not the same as 12 and 12. Yeah, it's like someone said, someone said, I'm studying for an exam, I studied for 2 hours. So, well, not really. I studied for 45 minutes, I took a 10-minute break. Then I studied for another half an hour, I took a 10-minute break. You didn't study for 2 hours. You study less than that. Yeah. The environment is very important here. Very, very important. So you want to tell me, okay, I'm going to sit and learn for 6 months. Then I'm going to do the army for 6 months. Then I'm going to go back and learn. It's not the same. It's not continuous. It's not continuous. But someone to say this is absolute heresy, that's why I'm bringing it up. For someone to say doing the army is more important than learning Torah, this is the problem. If it's a milchemes mitzvah, you got to go to war. And the prophet says everyone has to go to war. You go to war. You stop whatever you're doing, you go to war. We're not living in that type of thing. We're not living that. It's not that type of war. Yeah. Even whatever's going on up north and down south, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Point is, the point is, you always have people learning, you have people in the army. Right? You needed to stand in the army in the time of King David. Okay. Hey, people sitting learning. So someone's got the opportunity to learn. They got the opportunity, X amount of years, whatever it is, to be able to sit and learn undisturbed. Who in their right mind is going to say, doing the army is more important? Because there's already a difference of opinion between the Rambam and the Ramban. Right? The Rambam and Nachmanides, whether there's a mitzvah to live in the land of Israel. Yeah. And if you tell me there's a mitzvah to live in Israel, it's only if you can do it. If you can't do it, you don't transgress, you can't do it for different reasons. Okay, now, if you want to tell me there's a mitzvah to live in Israel, let's say, according to that opinion, if there's a mitzvah to live in the land of Israel, what about doing the army? Is there a mitzvah to do the army? Do they go hand in hand? This person says, yeah, it goes hand in hand. Are you serious? At best, it's only a mitzvah if you can do it. Yeah? So if you're here, you want to say, well, while you're here, you got the mitzvah to do it. Yeah? But again, the person is telling you, and this is heresy, again, that's why I bring it up, there's nothing more important than learning Torah. If it comes to saving a life, you stop learning. Yeah? If it's certain things, you shut the Gemara, right? You stop learning, you do what you need to do, right? If you have to. But there's nothing more important than learning Torah. So it was mind-boggling. Someone could say Someone could say you got the opportunity to go through Shas, finish the entire Talmud, be something in the world, give over this knowledge, tremendous. But you got to stop and do the army first. It's heresy. That is absolute heresy. Yeah. Again, would everybody say that? No. But there's a screw loose. That goes against what the Torah says. There's no question. Right? No question. Someone asked. Oh, so before I get to this question, again, so it depends where a person's going to fit in, where they're going to fit in philosophically, where they're going to fit in dress-wise, right? So I went through that in this video, right? What the difference between someone who's non-Orthodox, not dressing white and black, they're not dressing with a white shirt, not necessarily wearing a hat, right, and wearing black pants or dark black or dark gray or whatever. They can wear pink shirts, I don't know, yellow shirts, whatever. They look like everybody else. They look like secular Jews. Okay, they dress different. Women won't necessarily cover their legs. Yeah, when they're outside, even if it's very hot, they won't cover their legs with stockings or thigh highs or whatever. Yeah, there's difference. Some will cover their hair fully. Some, they won't. It depends. It depends. Other Orthodox communities different. Dress is different. So again, you don't want to get caught up in externals. I've spoken about that a number of times. Externals is a problem. You get caught up in. But again, you want to fit in a certain community. You want to dress the way people dress. Somebody asked the rabbinical court for my conversion. If I got divorced because my husband didn't want to convert to Judaism. Yep. If a spouse doesn't want to convert, they won't convert you. That's for sure they won't. If the spouse is interested, you're both on the same path, very good. Can a divorced person convert? Yes. Can a widow convert? Yes. Yeah. They may ask you. Why'd you get divorced? If a person says that, they really wanted their spouse to convert and they didn't want to convert, right? Essentially, they didn't want to convert, right? So, and that's the reason. That is the reason that, that is the reason that they got divorced. They're going to ask. For sure they're going to ask. They ask that. Right? And if the person says, this is the most important thing to me, and I was going on this path, and, and that's it, they're not going to convert you. They will say, they will say, well, you didn't have to go that far, to get divorced. This question comes up a lot, So I would tell people, if there are no other issues when it comes to conversion in general, in other words, they would have stayed happily married if they didn't convert, then I wouldn't tell someone to do that. I would never tell someone to get divorced. Even the person's a Christian, doesn't matter. Or a Buddhist or whatever. There will be a question how to raise your kids. That's a different issue. That might be a different issue. But stay married to them. Right? A person can lead, could be an Ohio and all that. Very good. Right? But, if someone was going to get divorced anyway, okay. Right? I've had a number of people like that. They were going to get divorced anyway. So, okay. Now, is the rabbinical court necessarily going to care? I don't know if they're going to care. They'll ask you why you got divorced. They may ask you that. Right? And let's say a person gave them the information. They said, I would have stayed married to my husband. This was more important. Right? Or to my spouse or whatever. This was more important. I would tell someone to do that. Maybe they were going to get divorced anyway. Okay. I had someone, the person personally just saw bits and pieces of what they put up, what they posted, but basically said they're very happy. They were very happy they became an Orthodox Jew. Right? No question about it. But they paid a price. They give up their spouse. So again, they don't have regret they converted. I think what they have regret is they lost their spouse in the process. Doesn't have to be that way. Right? But if someone says, this is the path I'm going. I can't go back, and this and that. And someone else like that. Someone else downsized, moved into the Jewish community, and the children were in a Jewish school, and the husband said, "I can't do it." Something happened, whatever. He said, "I can't go through with it." The person said, "But there's nothing to turn back to. Can't go back to what I was. Right? I'm not going to be a no-hide. Girls are going to convert. You got to convert." They ended up getting divorced. Now, was that the plan? Never the plan. It was never the plan. But this person said, "I've already gone this far." Now, this person could have said, "I'm going to stay married. I'm not going to convert. Let my kids convert." Okay. Right? And however that works. Let them convert. And I'll stay married. They'd already gotten to a point where there was no turning back. So because they had already gotten to that point, there's nothing for them to do. They felt there was nothing for them to do. Now, could they stay married? Could have stayed married. But the problem is they'd already, this person felt they'd already gone so far, which is probably true. Their kids are already in Jewish school. So how can you not be Jewish? This is the whole point. This is the whole point. You got to this point. So someone will ask, well, is that what God wants? Can't answer what God wants. God doesn't want families to be broken up. Yeah, if they're meant to be broken up, they're meant to be broken up. Right? I wouldn't, it's a hard question. The person had a very hard decision. It wasn't like they weren't married for a long time. And this was the issue. Wasn't there? There weren't any other issues. But as far as I know, there weren't any issues. So what they do? They got divorced. Yeah. So you could ask, should it have been that way? I can't answer what should have been. But when a person reaches a certain point, they'll say, "I can't go back. I don't want to be a no-hide. I've already gone to this point. I've already been keeping, Shabbos and Kashrus for so many years. Can't go back. There's nothing for me to go back to. That's the problem. That's a very hard thing. That's a very hard thing. Yeah. So it says good guys wear black. Could be. Very well could be. So moving to a community is going to depend. Is going to depend on where you think you fit it. Dress-wise and what do you call it? And philosophically, right? Where do you fit in philosophically? So again, you got to see. The best thing to do, if a person's thinking about a certain community, speak to people in that community. Find out what it's like. Go visit, if possible. Right? That's how you do it. Right? That's how you would do it. It's better to speak to people in the community. If you get a hold of people, and see what goes on, how do people dress, different things. If that's the type of community you think you're going to fit in, so you want to, it's like anything else. You want to do some research, right? Yeah. Any other? So that's pretty much how I answer that. Or any part of it? Yeah. If there are two synagogues, you got to see. you got to see where you fit in. Where, even if there's more than one synagogue, you can see the difference in the synagogues. Maybe one synagogue has people you feel more in tune with, the other one doesn't, or maybe they don't dress the same way. You have to see. The bottom line, you got to go check it out. That's the bottom line. You got to go check it out, right? You got to go check it out. But even before you go check it out, think about where you think you're going to fit in. What type of community you're going to fit in, and then see, right? And then see where that meets that criteria. And then you found a place you think meets that criteria, speak to people. Try and speak to people in that synagogue. Try and get a hold of the rabbi there, whatever. And see, try and go see it. That's what I would say. Is it true that the Israeli government not so helpful towards Orthodox Jews who want to make Aliyah? I don't know. I never took a survey. Yeah. I don't know. When I made Aliyah, I didn't have a problem. Right? Coming to live in the land. I didn't have any problems. Are they more difficult? I don't know. Not supposed to be. Right? If a person, I know someone who was Jewish married to a non-Jew, and they wanted to come, and they, gave him a hard time. But they gave him a hard time because, a person was a former Hare Krishna, and serious Hare Krishna is that for years and years, and they thought he was going to missionize. Right? The person was going to missionize. But it was interesting. He wants to become an Orthodox Jew. His wife wants to convert. They gave him a hard time. So, it depends. And, I'm not going to say across the board they never give a hard time. I'm not going to say that. I would say, though, yeah. It could be. It could be. I don't think that's, I don't think that's the issue. If someone has all their documentation, different things, it shouldn't give you a problem, right? Definitely shouldn't give you a problem. If there are issues already, right, do they want Orthodox converts coming here? I wouldn't say they're a big fan of it. Yeah. Well, they have certain criteria that you have to meet. So I would say it depends on the case. I know a number of people made Aliyah. They didn't have any problems. They had no problems at all. So, could there be a bias? Yeah, there could be. Could they give people a hard time just because they're Orthodox? Yeah, they could. Would I say statistically it's up there, very high percentage? I don't know. People I've come in contact with made Aliyah, they didn't have any issue. Doesn't mean they can't. Doesn't mean they don't have biases, but I'm not so well equipped to answer that because I haven't seen anyone who's had the problem except one person, but they were afraid. They were afraid the person's gonna, be a missionary, but they gave him a hard time, and he wanted to be Orthodox, and his wife wanted to convert, and all that. They gave him a hard time. So could they give some people a hard time that are Orthodox? Yeah. Is it the majority? I don't know. They don't like Orthodox people. True, they can't stop them from it. Definitely can't stop them from coming. Most, religious Jews, most Jews that are making Aliyah today are religious Jews. Whether they're coming from America, they're coming from other places. So they're allowing them to come. Like I said, I didn't take a survey, so I don't know who had more of a problem, less of a problem. I definitely didn't have a problem. I know other people didn't have a problem. I know one case. They gave a person a hard time. Yes, that could be discrimination. Could it be a lot more? Could be. Again, I'm not. I didn't take a survey. I didn't take a survey of that. But yeah. Any other questions? All right, so no questions, and I'm going to stop here. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, OrthodoxConversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, Torah portion of the week, even though I'm very behind. Book of Leviticus, or send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimKoffman@gmail.com, whichever good. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, or almost end of the day.